Hey guys, back again. This time we're going to be looking at another sci-fi kit with Hasegawa's 1/2500th scale Arcadia. Now, this particular boxing is of the third variant of this vessel, and also in a special anniversary edition for Galaxy Express 999. Well, let's open her on up and take a look. All right, starting out with the hull pieces. Um, as is typical fashion for Hasegawa, it's all recessed panel lining. A lot of smooth detailing along the hull, including these skull and crossbone reliefs. This will definitely be one kit that's going to be a joy to build up and detail. As just even out of the box, you get a lot for your money. Moving on, we've got some of the cannons. Unfortunately, the barrels are not drilled out. However, given the small scale, I would say it's not really worth the effort to do it. I mean, unless you really are dead set, simply due to the fact that it's going to be hard to find a bit small enough to do it, and keeping it straight is just, it's going to be more likely you're going to destroy the barrel than actually properly drill it out. I'm sure there are aftermarket or scratch build solutions out there that you can probably go with, but it's not something I would say is super worth your time and energy. Continuing on, we've got more of the hull pieces as well as some of the antenna. Again, because of small scale, they are quite fine and on the brittle side, so be careful. Again, you can see some more of the panel detailing here. So there's a couple little other odds and end parts. Now, interesting way they said to do this, they molded the front hull piece as a single piece assembly. Now, this is good as that it will simplify the cleanup process. But same time, it does mean some odd placement for some of the pore stubs. So be careful when cleaning that one up. Next up, we've got another additional sprue contains more of the weapon pieces. And then now we're into the rear, almost antiquated sailing vessel part of the hull. Now, this is where they've got an interesting route with all of this raised detailing. Now, they do include decals for all this, which we'll look at in a little bit. But frankly, I would recommend going with a reverse wash here, as I think trying to align the decals is going to be an absolute bear in the small scale. Now, this is also where I do think they made a little bit of a mistake, and we'll see why in a minute when it comes to these, and more evidently here, as they molded all of the window pieces in colored plastic instead of clear. Personally, I think had they molded in clear, that would have elevated this kit tremendously, as then gives you options for lighting kits and so on. My best suggestion for how to rectify this without having to recast the part would be to try and thin the plastic down as much as you can so that then light will shine through, and go from there. Obviously, anytime you're thinning it out plastic, you run the risk of, breaking through. So I would say, unless you're planning to light this thing up, don't bother. Just use the solution that comes with the kit. But aside from this, all the deck detailing is very nicely done. This sprue also contains several support pieces to help keep the structure together. Next, we're on to a few other odds and end parts and structural support parts. Now, I do like that they include this base with the kit, as given that it is a space vessel, it's not going to make sense for it to just sit on the ground or on a shelf by itself. It obviously wants to and needs to be displayed in a flying position. So the fact they include this is very nice. I also like the fact that they considered that it is a larger type vessel, so you're going to need a better grounded support. Now, last two sprues are these, which are unique to this particular variant. For this bladed piece that connects onto the bow, and the two variants on the bow skull, which is quite nice. Now, as I mentioned before, this is a special boxing for the anniversary of Galaxy Express, so we get this little acrylic standee with the kit. Now, give me a second to get these parts back in, and we'll take a look at the decals. Now, Hasegawa has always been great with the decals from Cartograph. This is no exception. As I mentioned before, you do get decals for all of the relief detail pieces, but given the small scale, trying to get those to conform and be positioned correctly is going to be a nightmare. So I would recommend just painting those details. You're also given decals for the cabin windows, which, if you go the route I recommend, you may not use. This is your own individual judgment call. Beyond that, we're given all the other odds and end markings, as well as 3 different styles of nameplate decal to use, plus a movie poster for this particular boxing. Now, despite the small size and scale, it's a surprisingly complicated build. Hasegawa has done a good job of breaking down the build process, but it's still going to take a little bit of time. Again, we start with the main hull and sort of build up from there. First forward to the bow, and then moving aft. Again, if you built most kits, this shouldn't be too complex for you, but you are going to want to make sure you take your time, follow the instructions, and try not to jump around and skip anything. And we end with attaching all the weapons. Now, I do like the paint key that Hasegawa has gone with for this particular kit. They've done a great job showing you where everything needs to go and what needs to get painted what. So I do like that. They do also include this little flag piece. I would recommend you scan it and make a copy of it and not use this one. I would say you might want to use thinner, lighter weight paper for the actual decal or copy you use. So, overall, it's a good little kit. Obviously, it's a more niche subject area here in the US, but it's still a good kit. I mean, one I would recommend for anyone that's into sci-fi, or obviously into Galaxy Express, Captain Harlock, Space Battleship Yamato, and so on. So that was a look at Hasegawa's 1/2500th scale Arcadia, specifically the 3rd variant of the ship. And until next time.